funny to poignant to really, just all over. It's just been a great mix of speakers tonight.
Our next speaker is Dan Clanton. Yeah, let's hear it, Dan. And he's talking about why you should listen to jazz.
So, my name's Dan Clanton. I am a professor at Doane College in Crete, and yes, I'm here to tell you why you should listen to jazz. Now, this question, why should you listen to jazz, immediately brings up two others. Why do I listen to jazz, and why am I passionate about jazz? So, I didn't grow up with jazz. I grew up in a little town right outside of Little Rock, Arkansas, where we had all two kinds of music, country and western. My first experiences with jazz were when I was about 5, and then later when I was in grad school. 5-year-old me didn't know I was listening to jazz. I just thought it was really fun music on Sesame Street. And I bet many of you may know this song. So if I look at you and say, "Mana Mana." Right. Well, as a 5-year-old, I didn't know that was jazz. You might not either, but that's a kind of jazz that we call a head arrangement. And it was pioneered by Kansas City jazz musicians like Count Basie and Lester Young. So 5-year-old me listened to jazz. I didn't know it yet. Later, when I was in grad school, I went to a friend's apartment and really loved the music he was playing. So I asked him what it was. He told me it was Miles Davis's album, Kind of Blue. I told him I had never heard it before, and he scolded me, rightly, and made me sit down and listen to the whole thing. And that was it. I was hooked. Done, deal over. But that night in his apartment, I learned an answer to one of those questions. Why do I listen to jazz? I listen to jazz because it's great music. If you care about music as an art form, then you should care about jazz. I grew up surrounded by music. I played classical music, I played popular music, but as I listened to more and more jazz, I started to realize that one of the things I loved about it was that jazz could serve as a gateway for so many things. So for instance, I learned a lot about American history from listening to jazz, because the development of jazz in America often parallels the history of African Americans. And the more you know about that history, the more you want to learn, the more you want to hear, and that curiosity hopefully will lead to understanding. For me though, jazz didn't just serve as a gateway to American history, it also served as a gateway to knowledge about the world. Because even though jazz originated as an American phenomenon, it's now international. So there's French jazz and Brazilian jazz and Israeli jazz. There's also jazz in Africa. I might never have listened to African music if it weren't for musicians like Mulatu Astakwe or Abdullah Ibrahim. Musicians like them opened my eyes and ears to a new kind of music, a new kind of history. And that power that jazz has to bring people from disparate backgrounds together lies at the heart of International Jazz Day, a UNESCO-sponsored event headed by jazz pianist and composer Herbie Hancock, whose goal is to bring people from all around our planet together to cooperate in dialogue around issues like freedom of expression, human rights, and peace. But you all don't have to go to Africa. You don't have to go to a UNESCO-sponsored event. You don't even have to go to the American Jazz Museum down in Kansas City if you want to see the positive impact that jazz can have on a community. All you have to do is look around Lincoln, because whether it's the Friday Live at 5 series at Vega, the UNL Faculty Jazz Ensemble concerts, the Great Plains Vocal and Jazz Camp hosted by Doane College, that's right, or the largest jazz event in our community, Jazz in June at the Sheldon. That's right. You all have an ample opportunity to witness firsthand the impact that jazz can have on a community and to get to know people in our community better through jazz. But I'll be honest with you, these are not the best reasons that you should listen to jazz. You should listen to jazz for the same reason that maybe you like chocolate. Or maybe why you love volunteering. You should listen to jazz because jazz makes you feel good. Jazz makes me feel good. Jazz makes me feel alive. Jazz makes me feel connected. Jazz makes me feel. Now, I can't explain it rationally, but when I listen to Louis Armstrong, I know with an absolute certainty that there's good in this world. And that if we, each of us, with our unique gifts and individual perspectives, can come together and improvise around a problem, that we can solve it, and all will be well, because that's what jazz is. And that's why you should listen to jazz. Thank you.
Very interesting. That was interesting. And we are nearing the end of the night, but another speaker coming up here.
One more speaker, and then we're going to have the presentation.